They say your early life romance game.
Alright. Okay guys, so today we've got the Fiat 124. Eddie from Pistons and Petrol bought down his car so we can develop an intake, and we ran into a problem. And we're going to post this in today's lessons learned, and a lot of people are not going to be happy with this lesson. So let's move on over to what we're doing. As you can see, we've got everything laid out over here. We started doing the intake, and we got to a point where we needed to figure out what to do with this pipe, what this tube that goes to this intake. So this intake sits on here, like so. This pipe goes over to the big fitting on the top of your airbox. This tube goes to the small fitting on the top of the airbox. So, what we ran into is I got to a point where everyone else uses a half-inch hose, half-inch fitting type of arrangement. They tell you to cut off the purple fitting, cut this hose off, slip the half-inch hose over it, hook up your half-inch fittings, etc., etc., etc. Well, I got to this point and I thought to myself, wait. There's too much here going on, and I need to start looking into this a little bit. So, first thing we did, pulled out my bore scope. I'm gonna get this set up right here. And took a look down inside the intercooler. And so we're gonna go down into this fitting where the purple fitting goes down into, and we're gonna take a look down inside of here. And if you look at the bore scope screen, you should be able to see what we got going on. So inside there we got a hole that's just a tiny bit smaller than the hose that goes to it. So I grabbed a drill. This is a 265 thousandths drill. I wanted to see if this would slip down in. This makes it to the point where it just about drops in. I've got to be real careful because I don't want to drop that in, but it does spin into the opening of that hole that we just showed you on the bore scope. So that's a wide open. That is 100% full flowing lower intercooler hose pipe that leads up into this hose. Okay, so that hose we've now confirmed has no restriction in it. So it's a full-on boost leak. So I was like, okay, well let's chase this down a little bit. We get up to the airbox. We've got two fittings here on the airbox. This one that runs down to the intercooler that hooks up to the larger side. And that's a boost leak, essentially. And we got this one here, which goes back to the fuel tank. This one goes back to the fuel tank, pulls vapors from the fuel tank as part of the evaporative emissions purge system. That goes right here. So I was like, well, let's check these hoses really quick and see what we got going on. Well, what we got going on was something I was really upset about, because you guys have been taken advantage of. All of you that bought an intake have just been, well, yeah, screwed out of your money. So let's take a look and see what we got going on. Again, bore scope. Watch the screen here. I'm going to go in here with this. Okay, so that is the first start of what is called an ejector tee. And as I come down in here, you can see that little tiny hole all the way in the bottom of that tee. What that is, that's an ejector tee. Now let me show you exactly how small this is. Got a piece of old 30 welding wire. If we slide this in gently, because I don't want to break the ejector tee, but if we slide this in, it won't go through, but it's tight enough to where it will just about support the hose, it's not touching down here on the side. So that is essentially supporting the weight of that wire. It's smaller than 30 thousandths. Now let's take a look at something. Today we get educated. Up here on the TV, this is what you call ejector tee. How do ejector tees work? So, airbox, bang, right? This here is your low pressure suction. This here is the boost that runs through the valve. Now it runs through this little box here on the back. I can go through and cut it apart. I'm not going to cut it apart, show you what's going on. We already showed you with the bore scope how it works. This comes across over, runs into this suction hose. Remember that little tiny hole? Get my glove off so I don't put greasy fingers all over the TV. Remember that little itsy bitsy tiny hole that we shoved the piece of wire into? We showed you with the borescope? That is that hole. As the boost pressure moves through that, it restricts it down and it causes a vacuum to be generated here. So when you're running in boost, your evaporative emission system is still working. Do you need your evaporative emission systems? Well, the federal government and all the other countries all over the world say you do, so that's not the problem. The problem is that you have removed this 25 thousandths restriction, and now you're flowing through a 1/2 inch hose. There is no restriction on that purple hose. There is no restriction down inside of the intercooler. All of the restriction is right here in this air box. So, for those of you who don't understand what's happening here, you've just taken a 20 thousandths, 25 thousandths hole and turned it into a 50 thousandths hole. That is an extreme boost leak. That is a massive boost leak. There is a reason people put intakes on these cars and they don't make any power. Because you just put a 1/2 inch boost leak inside your boost line. That turbo is being ran to death to try to compensate for this boost leak and still reach target boost pressures. We started working on an intake and I stopped when I found this. You need this ejector tee. The ejector tee has to be there. If the ejector tee is not there, you're going to end up with a boost leak, you're going to end up with power loss, and you're going to end up with eventual check engine lights getting set, which I think happens with just about every intake on the market. So, solution. Tune with a properly engineered intake that caps off the boost leak on the intercooler is going to be the only viable solution. I can bet you when you go through and do some changes inside the ECU and put a tune on the car without the ejector tee assembly in there, the evaporative emission system will still be working. They've got tables inside the ECU. I can't share too much about what's inside the ECU, what you can get rid of and what you can't get rid of and what you can turn off and on, but trust me, we can turn this off. So you can run on the factory purge system and not have to rely on the ejector tee inside the ECU. I bet you an intake might pick up 5, 10, 15 horsepower when you cap that boost leak off.
Just to clarify, capping also means capping off
Where the purple line goes.
the little valve here where the purple line goes.
Yeah, flashlight.
Sure.
That fitting would be completely capped off with a nicely, engineered plastic piece or metal piece that just snaps down over that and caps that off. So today, lesson learned. I want to thank Eddie for bringing his car down here so we can get some stuff done. Eddie learned something today.
Yes, I did.
I learned something today, and then we're going to still continue forward development with the intake, and we're going to make sure we get a tune and intake paired up for you guys. Again, thanks for watching, guys.